I'm going to make some cornbread, and my favorite recipe comes out of the Better Homes and Gardens. They used to call this perfect cornbread, but now this later edition they just call it cornbread, and it calls for flour, yellow cornmeal, sugar, baking powder, salt, eggs, milk, and cooking oil or melted shortening. So I have all those ingredients, plus I have some extra corn from a chili casserole I made, so I'm going to throw that in, and I'm going to make all of it in one of these Dollar Tree containers because I'm taking it to an event, and I'm just going to bake it straight in here and take it straight in here with the lid on. So let's get started. Alright, the recipe calls for, you start with the dry ingredients first, a cup of yellow cornmeal, a cup of white flour, a 1/4 cup of sugar, and this in here is 3/4 teaspoon of salt and 4 teaspoons of baking soda. And I'm going to take my whisk and just kind of get it all incorporated so that the baking soda and all that other stuff and the salt, or I'm sorry, the baking powder and the salt is all over the place, and so you don't take a bite in later and you get a big clump of baking powder or salt or something like that. There you go. Next, the wet ingredients. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the liquids. A 1/4 cup of oil, or you can melt some shortening. 1 cup of milk. And 2 eggs, which I have gone ahead and pre-beaten. And I'm going to take the whisk and just kind of start mixing that up. You don't want to over mix cornbread, but I'm going to use the whisk to get it started. Then I'll finish up with the wooden spoon. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and finish mixing this up with the wooden spoon. You don't want to overbeat it. It's like brownies. You don't want to overbeat brownies either. Something happens to them. Still a little lumpy, a little chunky. And then I'm going to take the rest of my corn. I had about 4 cups of corn in here, 29-ounce can. So I took half the can and put it in another dish. And so I have about the equivalent of a 14-ounce or regular store can of corn right here. So I'm just going to put this in with the cornbread. It's a good way to use it up. And just very gently mix that up in there. Mix it completely up so that all the corn is coated, again without overbeating. And here's what it looks like. Although I'm making the cornbread in one of these tinfoil baking things from Dollar Tree, because I'm taking it to someone's house, I do want to make sure that it comes out when I get there intact. So I have lined this pan with parchment paper. I made sure it was really tight around the edge, and I'm going to pour the batter in here. On our way there, the cornbread will cool, and by the time we get there, I'll be able to just pull it out, cut it up, and then put it back in the pan. So here we go. That looks yummy. It's a perfect fit. I also went ahead and made a little tiny muffin for myself. I want to make sure it tastes good when I take it out. I baked this up in the Dollar Tree container with the parchment paper and took it out of the oven and lifted it out of the tray here so that it could cool for a few minutes. I did the knife test. It came out clean. It looks just wonderful and smells delicious. I had made a little muffin for myself just to taste it, and it tasted good, and that's what it looks like. It has the corn in the batter with it. It's kind of nice and crunchy. It kept a nice corn-like crunch to it. And when I'm ready to go, I'm going to take this, put it back in the container and cover it up. I think this is a little too high for me to put the lid, the Dollar Tree lid that came with this on top, but definitely I'm going to put foil. As we're about to head out, I put the cooled down cornbread back in the pan with the parchment paper, and I took my kitchen scissors and cut off the excess paper. I'm going to be covering that with foil since, as I mentioned, I think earlier, it rose a little too high for me to put the lid, the cardboard lid that came with the pan. Also, I have my casserole here. It's diced tomatoes, chili, can of corn, and beef, cheese, taco seasoning, and so I thought those would probably be great together. Potlucks can be a little stressful at times. We often find ourselves at the grocery store at the last minute looking at the chips and dip section and trying to decide what to do. This particular combination, the cornbread and the chili, probably costs no more than $15 combined, and if you watch the previous video on the chili, you'll know that not only am I bringing this chili to the event, but I also had enough left over to mix up with some macaroni and cheese, so there's a whole other dinner made out of the same thing. So anyway, I hope you will maybe venture out and try something new for your next potluck invitation, or if you're having guests over, just for you at home. Enjoy your evening. Thank you so much for watching.